Okay, so now what we're going to do is take the code we wrote a little while back to demonstrate callback hell, which is just nested callbacks, and it gives us this kind of triangular shape. And we want to replace this with a promise, okay, this get data. I want it to return a promise so that we can use the dot then syntax and use promise chaining. Now that will clean it up a little bit, but in the next video, I'll show you how to clean it up even more using something called promise.all. All right, now we're going to be fetching these JSON files, so I do have those in the same folder here. Movies, JSON, actors, and directors.json. So let's get rid of this first of all, and then we want this to return a promise instead of taking in a callback. So we'll get rid of that CB, and then we're going to wrap everything in a promise. So let's say return new promise, and that's going to take in a function, and that's going to we're going to pass in here resolve and reject. Okay, and then we basically just want to move everything into that new promise. So from here down to the set timeout, we'll cut that, and let's paste that in here. We'll just move this stuff over a little bit. All right, so now we have everything wrapped in new promise, so we can use resolve and reject. Now I do want to check, right here we're checking for ready state and the status. I want to break this up and check for the status as a nested if, because I want to reject if the status is not 200. I can't put an else on the ready state because it will be 2 and 3 before it actually hits 4, so it will make the else always run. So instead, we're going to just do another if statement in here and say this dot status, if that is equal to 200, then we'll just move this in here and then say else. So in the else is where I want to reject, and then we'll just pass in here something went wrong. Now instead of calling this CB, this is where we want to call resolve. Okay, we want to resolve the promise with this data, which is going to be whatever the endpoint is, if it's movies, directors, whatever. All right, now to use this promise, or to use this function that returns a promise, we're going to call it, so get data, right? We're going to pass in the endpoint, which is going to be ./movies.json. And then instead of passing in a callback function like we did before, we're going to add a .then. Okay, and in that .then, we'll pass in a function, and we should have access now to the movies. So in here, let's do a console log of movies, save that, and then anywhere between 1 and 4 seconds, we should get the movies. Now, after the movies, I want to be able to get the actors. So remember, from the .then, which I'm going to put this on a new line because this just makes it much easier to read. Push that over. So after the console log, I'm going to return get data, and I'm going to pass in here the endpoint of ./actors.json. Now, instead of like putting .then here, which would be very messy to have like a .then and then inside of it have .then, instead of doing that, we just go to the end here and we tack on another .then, and whatever we return here, which in this case will be the actors, will get passed into the function here. So let's say actors. All right, and then in here we can do a console log of actors. So now I'll save that, and within 1 to 4 seconds we'll get the movies. Okay, movies will always be first, and then we'll get the actors. Now if I want to get the directors as well, I'll just go ahead and return here, get data, and let's pass in here ./directors.json. And then again, we'll just add on another .then. Okay, and it's not nested, so it's nice and clean. To me, this looks better than a bunch of nested callbacks, but I'll show you how we can clean it up even more in the next video. So directors, let's console log directors. All right, so we'll save that, and we should get all three. We should get movies first, then we get the actors, then we get the directors. All right, now if we have some kind of error, then we want to handle that with a dot catch. So let's add in that and pass in, let's say, error, and then that's going to be our function where we just console log and console log the error. So now let's mess one of these up by, I'll just put on a 1 to this endpoint here, and we'll save, and it should do the first one, which will be the movies, but once it gets to the actors, I'm sorry, the directors, not the actors, then you'll see it throws the error, and we catch it, and we're just console logging something went wrong. And we could do anything we want here. If we wanted to show a little pop-up that said whatever, something went wrong, that's fine as well. But I'm going to go ahead and just put that back. And now in the next video, we're going to look at promise.all.